Give me a guess, Poundcake. You'll never get it, but I want to know what you hear.
This is not. I'm about to piss people off. This isn't corn, is it?
Corn? My goodness.
I'm about to piss people off.
Cody.
What? He said I wasn't going to get it, so it was a shot in the dark. What did I have to lose?
That's right. You are correct. It is not corn.
Okay.
There's a band called The Cult.
Yeah.
Love them. Ian Astbury, one of the most underrated frontmen in rock and roll. Billy Duffy. I think John Tempesta is playing drums for them now. It was Matt Sorum back in the day, but these guys have been doing what they do for almost 40 years. They are kicking off their tour in Cleveland. And back in the day, they were the Southern Death Cult. But the Cult is one of those bands that, like, when you hear a handful of their songs, you might not even know who it is, but you go, God, that's a great song. She Sells Sanctuary is this one. Firewoman was a huge hit for them 35 years ago. Huh? She Sells Sanctuary by the seashore.
Yeah.
That's right. I love The Cult. It's just one of those bands that I think is just perennially underrated. And they're doing about a dozen U.S. dates. And they're kicking it off here in Cleveland, July 12th. They're going to play MGM Northfield Park. And they will wrap end of October. So they're doing 3 dates next month. They're doing Cleveland, Peoria, Milwaukee, and then they'll go back out in October. So if you dig The Cult, yeah, I'm going to be at that show, man. It's a school night. That's a Wednesday night.
So who are they opening for?
The Cult are not opening for anybody.
Whoa.
I don't know.
What the hell? You're going to see the headliner?
No.
I go to see plenty of headliners. I've just been fortunate. I've taken it as fortunate there are shows where I just want to see the opener because it saves me time. But there are plenty of headliners I love to see. I don't know who's opening for them. There's a band called Cold Cave that's another great band. They're not doing the Cleveland stop. They're doing a lot of the October dates. But if you're one of our bureau chiefs, they're doing Portland and San Diego and Sacramento and Vegas. But they will kick the whole thing off here in Cleveland on July 12th. The tickets will go on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. And Poundcake is correct. They are not corn. But to the untrained ear, you could be forgiven for not knowing. Alan, did you see that Pat Sajak is... I did see that. Pat Sajak is retiring from Wheel of Fortune. Does anybody watch Wheel of Fortune? Gwen and I watch Jeopardy, but does anybody here watch Wheel of Fortune?
I'll put it on. Like, if I'm scrolling around and it's on, I'll leave it on. I like Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, it's like if I'm in a hotel room.
Yeah.
I'll watch it, but like I don't watch TV very much at all anyway, especially like live TV.
Wheel of Fortune is among the most watched television shows on TV. And the word is that Ryan Seacrest will replace him. And I can't imagine, God bless Ryan Seacrest, has anybody ever benefited more from the retirement of broadcasting dinosaurs than Ryan Seacrest?
Why does he want the job?
Because did you hear what I just said? It's among the most watched. Yeah, it's super easy. You make a ton of money.
And you don't have to work that much.
Vanna White, I mean, she's probably clinching her hole thinking, oh my God, I'm finally out of a gig. And then they're like, Seacrest is coming in. And she's like, whew, Dick Clark dies. Seacrest takes over. Regis Philbin splits. Seacrest. Pat Sajak. Dunzo. Seacrest in. Pat Sajak will retire next year. He replaced a guy you might remember named Chuck Woolery. This was a guy who had a show called Love Connection back in 2 and 2. Remember Chuck Woolery?
Mm-hmm.
And Pat Sajak is very much kindred spirits with Chuck Woolery in that if you follow either of these guys on social media, they're very conservative. And over the years, this would occasionally get them into trouble. Now, granted, it's not really going to get you in trouble with the audience of your show because I think probably the viewership of Wheel of Fortune is probably 70 and up. But Pat Sajak was always doing something that people were getting upset about. But who cares? He's got his opinions. Chuck Woolery was another one of those guys. So maybe it's decades upon decades of staring at a spinning wheel that puts your brain into some kind of fugue state. I don't know. But if the Seacrest thing is true, man, this guy is in the right place at the right time. He's a hard worker. But anytime one of these old timers quits, Seacrest swings in on a vine. Pat Sajak will leave at the end of its upcoming 41st season. And if you've watched Wheel of Fortune at all, I'll see the last couple of minutes of it if I'm going to watch Jeopardy. And Pat Sajak, he is checked the F out. He looks like he could not care less. He's ready to go. He's made an ass load of money because that's why you hang on to these gigs for so long. Because these are widely syndicated shows. However much money they pay him.
And don't they film like the whole season in like a month?
They do a ton of episodes at once.
Yeah.
And then you have the rest of the year off. It's like when Alex Trebek used to talk about doing Jeopardy. And they would talk about when he was in contract renegotiations. And he's like, I never go in there asking for a ton of money because they already pay me very, very well for 2 months' work. He's like, you work a lot in those 2 months. It's like Drew Carey doing Price is Right.
Yep.
Used to be people wouldn't touch a game show with a 10-foot pole. But now people are angling for game shows. They're like, please give me a game show. Because you work a lot in a short period of time and you make a lot of money. Not everybody's making Wheel of Fortune money. But these conversations were probably already being had with Ryan Seacrest. To go to him. Because listen, in the grand scheme, Ryan Seacrest like my age. I don't know if he's 50 yet, but he's damn close if he's not. But he's still considered like the young buck in television. And his bona fides are pretty solid. But, still does American Idol. And I guess people still watch that show. And he was on the Kelly and Michael and Regis show for Kelly and Kelly, whatever that was. I don't know. But there are people who watch for Ryan Seacrest. Because when he split, Kelly Ripa's like, let's put my husband in this. And Mark Consuelos is a good-looking dude. But nobody wants to sit there drinking their coffee, listen to them talk about his filthy underwear. Or how she's got to do his laundry or whatever,
I might listen.
Do you watch Mark and Kelly in the morning?
No, I do not. Well, I'm working. So I'm not, if I had a husband that just, was bringing home the bacon and I was doing laundry all day, I would watch it. But I just don't have that option. I don't have the time.
Yeah. And Seacrest still does the radio show. He has a syndicated show for this company, which couldn't be less work.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he enjoys his life.
He must.
I don't know no, he can't. No one who works coming from someone who works multiple jobs for
You're
long
not getting compensated the same
But
way.
he
Right.
doesn't have time to spend it. Like I feel like
What
he doesn't-
time? You bank it out and then you dip when you want to.
People like him, I feel
It's
like.
not like Pat Sajak is 90 years old.
He's not
I mean,
young.
huh?
I mean, he's what, 75?
76.
70. That's still pretty old, dude.
Go back home to Chicago. He'll get a penthouse in the Palmolive building, look down on all the plebes, and have a nice life. Seacrest, if you were doing if every one of your jobs, Cody, was paying you millions of dollars, you'd never stop working. That's Seacrest.
And when you have that kind of money,
he's such a hard worker. It's like, yeah, he is a hard worker, but you are being compensated for you're making millions of dollars.
and when he takes off, he can go on a vacation every weekend because he can fly private, go wherever he wants, do whatever he wants. He's got, and even then he can still take time off because a lot of those shows aren't, like the live shows are one thing, but like he still takes a ton of time off of that. They always do.
So Wheel of Fortune used to be a daytime game show. And when Chuck Woolery split, they got Pat Sajak. And then, but for a couple of years, then they moved it to nighttime, syndicated at nighttime in the early 80s. And he's been doing it ever since. And you win daytime Emmys and all this kind of crap. So for people who care about those kinds of things.
He's not like married or any. He doesn't.
Seacrest?
He's just doing his own thing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him.
And for a guy who, God bless him. I mean, he's a good-looking guy. He was never amazing on the radio. If not for American Idol, who knows what his career would have been. But he's parlayed all of his abilities into a great career. He's a hard worker. He's very good at what he does. He'll be 49 this Christmas. So he'll be 50 next year. So, yeah. American Idol fans are holding back tears after Ryan Seacrest shares emotional news. That was him saying that he was leaving Kelly and Ryan. So the guy has got, and that's why he left that show. He's like, I can't work in New York every morning and do this show in L.A. That would be too much. Doing the bi-coastal thing, that would be a huge pain in the ass. But again, when they're paying you millions of dollars to do it, you find a way.
It work.
You find a way. Everybody gives DiCaprio a hard time. Ryan Seacrest doing the same thing.
Oh, he
dating 25-year-old girls.
Nice.
Well, good for him.
Does he have him on the yacht?
Does
he have him on a yacht all the time?
Yeah, he does. Yes. Al, don't forget the guy who hung himself who hosted Wheel of Fortune. That was Ray Combs. That was Family Feud. Ray Combs was the guy. I don't think he ever hosted because Pat Sajak's been doing Wheel of Fortune for friggin' 40 years.
His son was doing comedy in Cincinnati years ago.
Oh, yeah?
That was always weird because he was just like trying to be shocking and crazy on stage, and it was always like oh no, Combs is here.
Well, I think Ray Combs was a comic, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that how he got that gig?
I think so.
And he was from out here. He was from, Ray Combs was from Columbus or something.
I mean, I imagine Cincinnati. Right?
Was he?
That's where his son lived.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was sad too. He was in a car accident or something, and then he got a divorce, and it was a whole thing. But he hanged himself. He was living out in Glendale in L.A., and I guess he had just trashed his house or something, and he hanged himself in the hospital room. I don't know if this was back when they didn't, I don't know. It always amazes me when you go to a hotel or a hospital and you have somebody who's on psychiatric hold and they find him tying the bed sheets together. It's like, yeah, you know what they're going to do. I mean,
make a fort.
Tied together?
There were no cushions in the thing.
Right, got time together, make a bigger canopy.
Yeah. I guess he had opened a couple of comedy clubs. They flopped. So he was in really bad shape financially. So it was just a domino effect of all kinds of things. But Ray Combs had hosted a Family Feud for some years. But he died in 96. So listen, if you are a Ryan Seacrest stan, it is the days of wine and roses. You cannot get enough. If you listen to us on iHeartRadio, you can always leave us messages there anytime you like.
Hey, Alan. Hey, I'm just curious. What would it sound like if somebody from Pittsburgh won the tickets from doing your...
Oh, my God!
In front of the window.
Oh!
Good show. Bye!
The Taylor Swift show's in Pittsburgh. I got to go. I'll take my daughter. They murdered my daughter. My daughter's been murdered. More Philly, but oh, Alan, Alan, coming to your window on Friday. We dress up like Taylor Swift so I can go back. I'm still calling it Three Rivers Stadium. You call whatever you want. I never even call it Heinz Field. What is it now? Acrisure Stadium. I ain't calling it that. I ain't even call it Heinz Field. It's still Three Rivers Stadium to me. I go see Taylor Swift, Three Rivers Stadium. Can't believe. Thank you, Anna, for the tickets. Oh. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Alan, hate the show.
Oh, Mike checks in occasionally with us. He's over there on the west coast of Ohio.
How you guys doing today?
Pretty good.
Mike, where is the west coast of Ohio again?
It's on the west coast of Ohio.
I'm trying
it's
to.
pretty descriptive.
Yeah, I'm trying to just kind of nail down maybe a latitude and longitude, or
The east coast of Indiana.
is that what it is? Okay.
It's like near that.
Near
Okay.
there.
Named after Chanel
Near there.
West Coast? Isn't she from Ohio?
I do not know Chanel West Coast, but I
Well, she's
I wish
hot
I
on
did.
your heels, Mike. I can only imagine. What's going on?
Well, there's a funny story about Pat Sajak. You were just talking about him. He did an interview like 10 years ago, and very similar to your Pittsburgh/Philly accent, whatever you were just doing there. Apparently, him and Vanna used to just go get drunk in the middle of the day, and then go back and do the show. And so, for a decade and a half, the best years of Wheel of Fortune, they're drunk. They're on TV. And I think it's just a great thing, but I'm not sure if it's a good or bad thing for Mary. Does that mean Mary's best years are behind her, or that she's going to have a tough time when she finally gets on TV because, she's sober now?
I don't think, no, that's not. Getting day drunk because you're a millionaire is different than being an alcoholic. I would have ruined any opportunity I had. Because Pat Sajak's not going to re-show up drunk and try to fight the contestants. That's the difference.
If you got FU money, would you start drinking again?
No.
Like I'm
I
talking
would
like
die.
like $500,000.
No.
But you
500 million.
But you've also established what you would do if you had 24 hours to live. So on a
That's
long
different.
enough timeline, everybody's life expectancy goes to zero. Why not just compress that?
Because I don't want to die yet. If I knew
Gotcha.
I was going to die and had no choice over it, that would be different.
But what
At
if you
what
like,
age, will you be able to gauge at what age you might start drinking again?
I don't think I ever will.
Never.
No. I really don't. There's no need for it anymore. It's not something I miss.
Well, there was never a need for it.
Oh, I'm saying I had my years. When
Yeah.
he says your best years are behind me, like my party years are behind me. I don't need that anymore.
Yeah, how did that turn into a Mary thing, Mike?
I don't know.
He pivoted from Vanna White. By the way, Vanna White makes $10 million a year. So you think Pat Sajak's got it good. Vanna White, I can fully see her saying, Pat's going, I'm going too, because what they've been doing, and I'm sure they were kind of testing the whole thing, is they would have Pat Sajak's daughter filling in when Vanna was gone, Maggie Sajak. I could see it being Seacrest and Maggie Sajak. Vanna White going, I'm out. Pat's out. I'm out. I've made more money than I ever thought I would for not even turning the letters anymore.
Just
Just
touching
pointing to them and they light up.
And half the time she wasn't even allowed to talk.
Well,
Or no, those were Bob's Beauties that weren't allowed to talk.
Bob's Beauties. Right. Hey, Woody.
Alan,
Yes, sir.
how's your day, brother?
My day is just fantastic.
A real quick question before I get to my subject. Vanna White is making $10 million a year now, and she's been running this thing. Remember when the stock market was banging through the 80s? Does anybody have any idea what her actual worth is? Because you guys look that up every once in a while on people's actual worth, because she had to have been just banking like crazy back in the 80s, right?
Woody, I think it's fair to say that Vanna White's worth is not measured in dollars and cents. Woody,
Right.
how dare
It's
you
her
even...
looks.
That's right. How dare you imply that this lovely, talented, smart woman be measured, her worth, in dollars and cents? But it's probably hundreds of millions of dollars. Biggest thing to ever come out of Conway, South Carolina. Other than Carissa, who was our bureau chief in Conway, South Carolina.
We got Houston Mark on the line, but we got to go to break.
Got to go to a break. He's the guy that did the new Browns Dog Pound logo. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, good. Well, if he can hang on, I will return to him. I will have those WWE Raw tickets for you, too. Monday Night Raw is back at the Romo Fijo this coming Monday, so we'll hook you up with those and be back after these.
The Alan Cox Show.
On our free iHeartRadio app and your favorite smart device. Just tell it to play the Alan Cox Show on iHeartRadio.
This September, our iHeartRadio Music Festival is coming back to